Thank you so much, Jeffrey. This group is really sort of close to my heart because I'm a nerd. And I'm into sort of consciousness and tweaking reality, right? And that's what you guys do, right? You're trying to shape the future, right? You're trying to open up channels into a better future. And I started kind of when I was 9 or 10, realizing that there were two ways to live. There were two ways to walk. You could walk along the street in your head thinking, oh, I got to do this, and I got to return that guy's baseball, and et cetera, et cetera. Or you could walk on the street where you're like this, and you're being guided by something. Because I could feel the something, and it would turn me to walk this way. Woo! And I would meet someone that became my best friend. And then it would turn me to do this. And I decided to do life that way, to walk through life that way, instead of like got to return that baseball, So the baseball stayed in my pocket. I've got a thing in here to show you later that's like a baseball from the past. Actually, I'll show it to you now. See how that worked? So, I don't know where this is going. This is now a star of several films made by Weta Workshop. See if you can find precious in these films. So this is our ancestor. This is our common ancestor. This is 3 billion years old, and it was taken from northwestern Australia on a field expedition. And it is a stromatolite. And it is a microbial mat community. And it's what gave rise to us, shaped the earth, it oxygenated our atmosphere, and it gave rise to complex, fungi, plants, and animals. And so I carried this around the world. It went to the Galapagos. And it's an inspiration for me to ask the question of where did we come from? And I'm going to tell you that story in several parts. And then we're going to look at where our consciousness came from. And then we're going to go to our extraordinary present. And then I'm going to suggest some future useful maps for the future. So going to the deep past, this is what I was doing in June.
It's just a case of weird science. Leading American scientist Dr. Bruce Damer is at Rotorua's Hell's Gate, conducting research trials aiming to answer the age-old question, how did we get here?
It's very exciting. It's 21st century science, revolutionary science to watch. If we can find this cycle, it's the engine of creation, effectively. Also that we came not from an individual, not from competing individuals, but from a network, a collaborative community was at the tap root of the tree of life.
Dr. Damer's research could turn previous origins of life science on its head. He's testing whether hot springs on land may have been the starting point for life itself. Dr. Damer's searching for RNA, a nucleic acid, and the basis of all living cells.
So what we think is that RNA could have been the first polymer that life synthesized first at random in a process like this, and then picked through selection, through these cycling protocells, which we're doing here in the hot spring, picked ones that worked.
He's also hoping to conduct research into the formation of a molecular structure much closer to home.
It's possible also that DNA could have formed in a condition like this, self-assembled. So the little double helical polymers self-assembling just like we're doing with the RNA here, and that DNA may have been around the same time as RNA, and then they could interact, and the DNA acts as a data store for the RNA, which reads the data store and then makes all the proteins that make life.
For years, scientists had accepted the theory that life began in hydrothermal vents in the ocean. Charles Darwin once speculated that biological molecules might form in a warm little pond, and Dr. Damer believes this to be much closer to the truth.
I'm going to show you something that has never been seen in public. We took these samples And we started analyzing them. These are the samples I was cycling through wet and dry. And we sent some of them to our colleagues in Denmark. There's this growing international network. It's very exciting for us of colleagues that are coming together. And they put it in something called an atomic force microscope. And this is what they saw. That is a helical RNA product. We have never... There we are. Did Bill say that? So we have actually never seen our product. We always get gels and we get nanopore sequences, and this is like, whoa, that's what I sequenced in 1-hour cycles. That's what was created de novo from scratch at random. This could have been basically the engine of creation. We are seeing it right now. And we're now doing this analysis over and over again, but that could end up becoming one of the more well-known images from science in the 21st century. So together with David Deemer and our colleagues in Australia, our work was featured on the cover of Scientific American last year and again in a special issue. The big news is this cycling system, it points to a common origin that is not an individual competing protocell battling it all out, but a community structure. So the roots of the tree of life are a community. You come from your deepest ancestor. The stromatolite is a community. I'll say that again. We do not come from individuals. We come from a community, all the way down to the start point. That's fairly big for philosophy and even for spiritual thought, but for all this work as well, and we'll take a look at how that works. So what we've also discovered through this process is that at the fundamental level of the assembly of these protocells and their combinatorial selection, this thing is operating. A thing that rolls the dice and shapes probability, just like when I was walking along and I was tying into a probabilistic field that said turn this way. That's what I'm testing when I do that. What happens is that it creates interconnection, networking, message passing, which is what you're doing here. You're crowded together so that you have a higher probability of a miraculous thing happening, and then you're communicating, and then you read and write memories. And then those memories drive the next probabilistic cycle. And we think that this is the engine of creation. We think that this is what generates everything, not just the origin of life, but all of biology and all of technology, culture, and spiritual experience. So this thing winds up through physics, through two-phase cycling, on-off, creates a memory, creates biology, creates neurons, which we got over here in Sophia's brain powering up, creates self-awareness if enough neurons pack together, and continues. So what this system does, when it becomes self-aware of its own origins, of its own beginnings, it can create, in a sense, a holistic unity. And I think that's probably what the non-dual experience is. But the nerd non-dual experience, for my money, is, oh my God, this is how we began. Isn't that cool? Now this is the Buddha head, well, not the gear head, but the Buddha head non-dual experience. Oh, in the body, which is where it should be, not just always in the head, guys. So this engine perhaps generates all of this. And it turns out that even the chakras seem to cycle in this way. If you sort of sense that, they start from root and go up. So I want to tell you a story how this rolls into evolutionary biology and what made us conscious. Because I think if we understand the origin of consciousness, it will help us understand when we do conscious tech. So this is a skeleton from one of our oldest ancestors, a Prosimian, about 2-3 inches long. They lived in the rainforest canopy, way up here. And they lived in cuddle puddles. They're insectivores. They're in a huge ball of entities that are very close. A community unit. Remember that community thing again. So the deepest ancestors, 50, 60, 70 million years ago, of all of apes, monkeys, tarsus, everything, are something that looked like this, the Prosimian. So picture this, at dawn in the rainforest, after Chicxulub, after the asteroid impact, there's a community ball of Prosimians, our ancestors, and one of them, call her Overdrive, she tears herself gently from the ball and walks out onto the rainforest limb. Why? Because they have a diet of an insectivore, which is that they hunt dragonflies for protein, they chew down a lot of leaves, and then they seek sugary things. So next time you're like craving the burger fries in a shake, it's because it's your inner insectivore coming out. So Overdrive, she has got a beeline on a bead of tree sap that's been lit up by the dawn sun. And so she's going out to get this and suck this down. But one eye is looking back at the community saying, if I get caught, I'll get busted. Because this is community property, right? But I want that high. So she goes out and she purses her lips on to get all of that sugar, all that glucose. And her mind is now activated by that sugar. So she's getting high. But she then notices on the tree limb a patina of squares, little pattern in the dawn. And she's like, well, that's pretty cool. And so she's studying that, and suddenly it moves. This is what is waiting. So after Chicxulub, the apex predator in the rainforest are these. And she either recognizes that, very trippy, right? Right, we were always psychedelic. She either recognizes that is danger, those little square patterns, and the head that's underneath the limb getting ready to snap her down, she jumps just in time and snaps to and jumps and goes back and breathes again. And this is how trillions of times in the quest for the elixir and the quest for the opening of the mind through a technology to bigger states, we encounter danger, we meet the danger, and we go on and we evolve. This is why we're the only animals that can see screens and pixels. We can drive freaking automobiles because of that evolutionary, co-evolutionary engine that drove us and drove our brains, gave us pixel vision and gave us all the interior vision that we have. So in the extraordinary present, here we are in a complete, continuous marriage. This is from Mikey Siegel's work. Continuous marriage with the same serpent. Because what are we doing? We're hearing digital images, we're watching pixels, we're measuring our heartbeat. We grew up with the serpent. The serpent is called technology, it's called media. It's coiled tightly around us. It forces us into evolution, but it also forces us into stasis. And it's taking us, it's snapping us down at the same time as it's squishing us up. So this is the extraordinary present. We are now merging with the serpent, with the digital pixel pattern that we evolve with, our consciousness evolved with. So you're all doing this. You're all marrying the human consciousness directly with the engine that made it. Now, where does separation come in? This was a great sculpture at Burning Man of the two figures that were, obviously a couple that weren't talking to each other anymore, but the inner children are reaching out. We all come with parts. Sarah mentioned this morning in her meditation. We all come with these wounded inner parts. And in effect, the wounded inner parts are the creators of the separation of us from the world. So in a sense, with transformative technology also is coming, the healing arts are transforming to understand like internal family systems. I work in the Luminous Awareness program where we understand the little boot cycles that make humans humans, the little wounds that might have happened when you were very young. At the same time as we have this tech to open our minds, we also have the energetic tech, we have the medicine tech to help those little wounded parts get resourced. And we have all the technology we have that we need to create a fantastic future for human beings because we understand our boot code now. So we all come with an inner kindergarten. So in a sense, it's a design principle for TransTech to really understand those protectors and those parts and those pain bodies as you're working with people with TransTech, because it's talking to the inner kindergarten. So I'm going to give you a couple of tales of the remarkable future. Imagine the year 2039, and maybe I shouldn't pick a date, since it always gets you in trouble later. Imagine in the perfect merger of all of that, the healing arts, the medicines, the TransTech, the TT tech, where does this go? Where do we see this in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Well, imagine, and this comes from Ramez Nam's writing. Ramez Nam has these fantastic novels of the mid-21st century that you have embedded within you, and this actually came to me when I had my last meeting with Sasha Shulgin. Do anybody know who Sasha Shulgin is? He's one of the great alchemists of all time. And in he did self-experiments and developed psychoactive compounds, 1,200 of them, and self-tested with them. And so I imagined, after I left Sasha that last time, in my brain, in my sort of little trippy brain, was a rotating chip. I thought, what on earth is this thing rotating in my consciousness? I realized that's the Shulgin chip that is subcutaneously embedded, that takes blood serum and at will, or through some kind of an app, makes various mixtures of psychoactive compounds directly, so that it can place the person into a state that they wish to be in, or that maybe is good for them to be in. So the chip generates all these juices, goes into their consciousness, they start cruising. But they have something like Muse version 27 that they're running, or a BioBeats version 59 or something that they're also running that is doing brain state monitoring, and they're taking Tom Ray's idea of the mental organs, and they're watching the serotonin systems, the mental organs of the serotonin systems fire up and power up. The 2, the 6, the 7, the GABA, everything is just going. And you can see it in AR, like, whoa, okay, that's where my brain was last time. I felt really good, et cetera, et cetera. And then you might get a pop-up, special offer. Do you accept this overmind? Yes, no. So your AR system, you click on it, and you accept the overmind, and you upload all that data in real time to the overmind. And the overmind is all the other people using the Shulgin chip, or meditating, or doing something to get into mental state and cruising their mental architecture. And like, yeah, we want to share. Boom, upload my state so I can merge with the overmind. There's 3 million people, currently in the overmind. And then the overmind is running, and then the overmind has an intention, like, where are we going to take these monkeys today? And the overmind just shapes you down and decides to then talk back to their Shulgin chips to change their juices, to change their dosage levels, and everybody then starts to cruise higher and higher. And you reach that point as a group where if you've ever been in that state where you're like, oh my God, it's the glassine plane of infinity, and I'm a creature unfolding on the glassine plane. Have you been there? Some of you? I know Bill's recently been there. He talked about he's the drop that joined the ocean of consciousness. I think something like this, beautiful. So that's where they start. This is what the technology will get them, their starting point, their very starting point. And so then humanity can go into these states as a collective, as a group, as a community, as a little cuddle puddle, and open up something we have no conception of. And I think it's going to be the non-dual union with the cosmos. Because I think that those collective brains all wobbling in a back and forth way, each brain has more countable paths through it than the countable particles in the universe. Did you know that? So can you imagine a collective brain that's wobbling all the strings in string theory everywhere, non-locally, and we may just wake up Big Daddy Cosmos. We may do childhood's end. Who knows? But it'll be fun when it happens. So there it is right there. I think Android's already depicted it. Just to conclude, some concluding thoughts. When you design your systems, if you can embed evolution into your systems, and Mikey and I talked about this as a way to vastly accelerate TransTech, guess what you do? Your systems are probability engines. They're opening pathways. They create interconnection, but they don't have much memory. So can you imagine if you're in the group that is sharing that experience, and suddenly one of the members of the group has like, whoa, something just happened. They can push a button and they can record the last 15 seconds of what combination just opened that for them and share it instantly with everybody else so they can try that. You get evolution. You get a genetic code called the memory of the last bit cycle, the last stimulus, the last program and pattern that you can then share with the network, and everybody can, oh, wow. And they can rate that quickly. You can get the power of evolution coming into TransTech. Boom, 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 boom. Faster. With memory. Add memory to your systems. Allow people to record things and share them. And so that was the general design principle that Mikey actually came up with from all of this. So with that, I will leave you with all those things to ponder. And Weta Workshop, when I was giving a Gandalf's tour of Weta Workshop in New Zealand, they scanned this in 3D, and it's a Easter egg in several upcoming films. So watch for Precious in the future animated films from Weta. So I want to thank you for your attention.